Hi friends. How would you feel about $10 oil? Kind of sounds absurd, doesn't it? Thinking about in South Carolina or in Texas or in Florida or somewhere else, $10 price of a gallon of gas. Well, our friends over on the West Coast in California got pretty close to that last week. In fact, they paid, some Californians, $7.25 for 1 gallon of gas. Families had to skip their 2 Starbucks coffee that week just to buy a gallon of gas. And so many investors, but more importantly, many consumers, many families are saying, are we headed to $10 oil? So let me let the air out of the bag. There is no reason to believe that we'll see runaway gasoline prices to $10 nationally. However, let me caveat that with a couple of things. The first is, last week actually was the highest price on average for a gallon of gasoline in the country in U.S. history. That's pretty high. It's never been higher. But the second thing is remembering why we're here. Why has oil skyrocketed? Inflation has certainly been a reason for that, but the Ukraine-Russia situation unfolding has certainly been probably the largest driver. So remember, Russia supplies about 1/3 of the world's oil demand. So with Russia in the global penalty box, the rest of the countries and developed nations have put Russia in a sideline position, and now that means we've got 1/3 less oil supply. But the demand hasn't gone anywhere. In fact, the demand is going up. So we're seeing increasing demand, and we just lost 1/3 of our supply. And with U.S. companies, large U.S. oil producers, think Chevron, Exxon, BP, they're not drilling for new oil. In fact, the CEO of Chevron came out and said they're actually concerned about share buybacks and internal growth, not production or exploration. So what's left is the small and medium-sized companies are left to explore and produce and try to drive new oil to the demand, to the supply side to meet the demand. And so if you are an investor in a small or medium-sized oil company, you might potentially be the only producers producing oil for the foreseeable future. So you have inflation at the back, you've got the Ukraine-Russia demand crunch on the price of oil, and neither of those things are likely going anywhere anytime in the near future. So we're likely looking at continued inflation and continued Russia-Ukraine conflict, which affects the available supply. And with limited folks producing oil, Saudi Arabia, in fact, has no more capacity to produce any more oil. How are we going to meet the demand? Well, the short answer is there's no clear path forward yet. However, the bright side of that is that both parties, Republican and Democrat, understand that high gas prices is a political issue. That the longtime Democrat in the Rust Belt is not going to vote for somebody if he's got to pay $6 a gallon. Just like the conservative Republican isn't going to sign off on $7.25 gasoline to vote back in a Republican. So with a lot uncertain around inflation, Ukraine and Russia, and even how we're going to meet the global demand issues for oil, probably the saving grace in all of it is the fact that we are in a midterm election year. And it is the ballot box in November that will be the largest stabilizing mechanism for the immediate future on gas prices. So if you're in South Carolina, you're seeing it around 4.25, maybe plus or minus. If you're in other locations, you're seeing it at different prices. Can it go higher? Yeah, it certainly can. Is it going to go significantly higher? I don't think so. In fact, November, being just a handful of months away, will be the stabilizing mechanism to keep us away from $10 oil. So take a deep breath. You can still go get your 2 cups of Starbucks coffee and afford your gasoline. We are not headed for $10 oil. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.